CSA. We're here to talk about, I think, a critical issue, important issue in regard to the safety of our roadways. Because we have a government system designed to keep American families on the road safe, but that system has been compromised. I'm talking about non-domiciled commercial driver's licenses that are issued across the country. So in plain English, this is a license to operate a massive 80,000-pound truck that's being issued to foreign drivers who are not U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents. The process for issuing these licenses is absolutely 100% broken. It has become a threat to public safety, and it is a national emergency that requires action right now. This isn't fear-mongering. This is a serious business that entails American families and their lives. So this year alone, a series of horrific fatal crashes have been caused by dangerous non-domiciled CDL drivers. So I want to go through a couple of examples. I'll pull the first one up here. On March 14th in Texas, a truck driver failed to brake and crashed into a long line of traffic. This caused a 17-vehicle pileup that killed 5 people, including 2 children, and 11 were hospitalized. A post-crash investigation revealed a history of unsafe lane changes, ignoring traffic signs, and multiple violations of hour of service rules. I want to go to slide 2 here. On May 6th, in Alabama, a driver with less than 6 weeks of experience slammed his tractor and trailer into 4 vehicles stopped at a red light. He killed 2 people and he injured 4. He had previously failed his skills test for speeding in his skills test. The crash occurred on just his 3rd day of employment with his carrier. And my third example, this of course was the fatal car crash in Florida earlier this summer, and many in the media had reported on that. On August 12th, the driver who had attempted an unauthorized U-turn on the Florida Turnpike caused this crash. It caused a minivan to crash into his trailer, killing 3 people. The driver had a prior speeding ticket and was non-proficient in English. He had previously been issued a CDL improperly by the state of Washington. He now faces multiple counts of vehicular homicide and manslaughter. So again, in each of these tragedies, the drivers were non-domiciled. We have an obligation to keep the American people safe, and that requires action today. That's why under President Trump's leadership, we have launched a nationwide audit of non-domiciled CDLs to get to the bottom of what we think is causing this crisis. We've heard from truckers and safety advocates and news reports that something was seriously wrong. It was alleged that the open border policies of the last administration has led to an exploitation of our nation's trucking licensing system. So today, I'm here to tell you after our audit that those reports, they're all true. What our audit has already discovered should anger every single American. So here's what we've learned. We just want to walk through it. First, our audit revealed a systemic breakdown among states to follow the law and issue licenses properly. States are failing to follow even the most basic procedures. We even uncovered widespread procedural errors, computer programming flaws, and a gross lack of oversight in the states that issue CDLs. This means that thousands of licenses that should never have been issued actually were issued. States are issuing licenses that extend months and even years beyond a driver's lawful presence in the U.S. This is a direct incentive to stay in our country illegally beyond their authorized work permit. They have driver's licenses. So in some disturbing cases, they have failed to validate a driver's lawful presence before handing them a commercial license. It's deeply disturbing, but even worse. Our second finding was that the current federal regulations are allowing dangerous, unqualified drivers on American roadways. This means that even when the rules are being followed, dangerous individuals who shouldn't be near a big rig are getting behind the wheel and causing crashes on our roadways. Eligibility requirements are deeply flawed and they're way too broad. They are simply not strong enough to prevent more of these horrific crashes from occurring in America. The system, it's failed, and it's a national emergency. So the combination of a catastrophic failure of states to follow the law and a broken system has created an imminent hazard to American travelers. That is why today I'm announcing two immediate major actions. Number one, we're issuing an emergency rule that fundamentally overhauls who is eligible for a non-domiciled CDL. These tighter federal standards, they're going to keep Americans and families safe on our roadways. Now, this is not a proposal. This is a final rule, and it is effective immediately. Jesse's going to go through those details in just a little bit, but here's the bottom line. Non-citizens will not be eligible for a CDL unless they meet a much stricter set of rules. Second, all states must immediately pause the issuance of non-domiciled CDLs until they can comply with our new rules. My message, it's very simple. Get into compliance now, or we'll pull funding and we'll force you into compliance. Nowhere in the country have we found a more egregious licensing situation than in the state of California. That's why the second action we're announcing today, it's an additional enforcement action against California. So for 2 weeks, FMCSA investigators were on site in California actually looking at their records. So we took a random sample. Investigators found that more than 1 in 4 non-domiciled CDLs were issued in direct violation of federal safety standards. So let's just put that another way. Over 25% of these licenses, they were issued illegally. So let me give you some examples. So on this slide, this is driver PND from Brazil. So California gave him a CDL with endorsements to drive a passenger bus and a school bus that was valid for months after his legal presence in the U.S. had expired. They put an authorized driver in a position to transport our kids on a school bus well beyond their date of work authorization. Number 2, this is driver JHB, a citizen of Mexico who is ineligible for a non-domiciled CDL. Mexican and Canadian drivers, or citizens, I should say, are not eligible for a U.S. CDL. California gave him one anyway, with a doubles and triples endorsement that expires more than 3 years after his work authorization ends. And so to be clear, we have a special relationship with Canada and Mexico, where if you're a citizen of one of those countries, you have to get a CDL in Mexico or in Canada. You can't come to the U.S. and get a U.S. CDL. So this license completely violates the rules, number one, and number two, expires after the work authorization. So 2 violations with this license. The third example, this is driver MOC, who is also ineligible as a Mexico citizen. California issued that license that expires more than 4 years after his work authorization ends. Again, another example where the clear rules say this driver should not have a license. And example number 4, this is driver ASV from Honduras. The DMV had no evidence it even bothered to validate his lawful presence before issuing a commercial license with tanker and double triples endorsements. So again, they don't even validate that he has a work authorization and should be issued a license in the United States, and California issued that license anyway. The work document that they had on file had been expired for 4 years, and they issued the license anyway. They didn't know if he was here illegally or not. They didn't validate it. They didn't verify it. It's shocking, and this is an unacceptable failure. It shows a reckless disregard for safety in California, and they should be ashamed of themselves. So California has 30 days to fix this. And by the way, we all know this, but if you get a CDL in California, You don't stay in California. You can drive nationwide. And so those California licenses are driven on roads in every single state in this country. And again, putting American families, American drivers at risk because of the bad action in California. If California doesn't comply, we're going to withhold federal highway funds. It's going to start at $160 million in the first year. We're going to double that in year 2. I want to close with this. This is not the ending. This is just the beginning. Our team identified non-domiciled CDLs that were issued improperly in Colorado, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Texas, and in Washington. Those states should know that enforcement actions against them are forthcoming. And we expect the list of states to grow as our nationwide audit continues. So to every other state, consider this your notice. Fix your system, fix your rules, comply with the law. Every governor must immediately begin a top to bottom audit of every non-domiciled issued CDL in your state. And if you find any license that was not issued properly, revoke it, get rid of it. Keep your streets safe, all of our streets safe. Bring your programs into compliance. You do not want the blood of more traffic deaths on your hands, governors. You do not want that. Now, I want to go through these details further. And again, Jesse Elison is our chief counsel at FMCSA, and he'll walk through those details right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Secretary Duffy has outlined, FMCSA has recently become aware of a critical safety failure. Really, it's a crisis on 2 fronts. The eligibility requirements for obtaining a non-domiciled commercial learner permit and commercial driver's license, or CLP and CDLs, are not narrowly tailored to provide sufficient safety. The second front is the existing regulatory framework is unworkable in practice due to the systematic deficiencies in state implementation. So FMCSA, in good faith, cannot permit this demonstrably failed non-domiciled credentialing system to continue in its current framework. Therefore, we find good cause to issue this IFR, this interim final rule, as Secretary Duffy has mentioned, is effective immediately. And this finding is based on the determination that a regular notice and public procedure are both contrary to the public interest and just not practical, because it would delay the adoption and the immediate implementation of the new strict standards for the issuance of CLPs and CDLs. To address this 2-front crisis, we need to act immediately. As Secretary Duffy said, it's an imminent hazard to public safety. I'll take just a brief overview. I'll provide a brief overview of the changes in the rule and direct you to the FMCSA will be providing a more extensive breakdown of the changes in the rule. But generally, it does 4 things. The change in the rule tightens eligibility. An employment authorization document alone will not be sufficient to obtain a non-domiciled CDL. Eligibility will be restricted to individuals who have lawfully entered the U.S. under a narrow set of verified employment-based visas, specifically and only H-2B, H-2A, and E-2. Secondly, the rule mandates verification. As Secretary Duffy had highlighted, there are many instances where states are not even verifying the underlying immigration documents. But they will now be required to use the Federal Save Immigration Database to verify an applicant's lawful status for every single issuance and renewal of a non-domiciled CDL, no exceptions. Thirdly, there'll be a shortened renewal requirement. The license will now expire when the driver's employment-based visa ends or in 1 year, or whichever comes first. This will safeguard against the reckless practice of issuing licenses long after a driver's authority to be in the country has expired. And finally, this rule will require in-person renewal. All renewals must be done in person, which will prevent automatic renewals by mail. Just to give a little bit of perspective on the impact of this rule, it's prospective, not retrospective. So it doesn't affect the non-domiciled CDLs today. And that amount is about 200,000 and 20,000 learner permits, which is about 5% of the overall CDLs that are issued, about 3.5 CDLs for interstate commerce. The impact of this rule under the current rules would effectively remove about 190,000 of the non-domiciled CDLs. So it will be significant. The second part that Secretary Duffy has highlighted is FMCSA's action against California. We'll be issuing today a preliminary determination of substantial noncompliance with the standards of issuing CDLs. All states must comply with the statutory requirements for issuances of CDLs, or they risk their highway funding being withheld, or up to decertification of their actual CDL program. In California, FMCSA concluded an annual program review, which is a regular review of the state driver's licensing licensing programs. This particular program, after the direction of Secretary Duffy, we added the non-domiciled component and really focused on that. It's an extensive review. We reviewed 145 of the over 3,000 non-domiciled CDLs issued in California in June. And it took almost 2 weeks of an on-site investigation. And as Secretary Duffy mentioned, 1 in 4 of our sample size were issued in violation of the federal regulations. So there are over 60,000 non-domiciled CDLs issued in California. And so this potentially impacts about 15,000 drivers. So we'll issue our preliminary determination against California for failing to meet the requirements. And let me just outline some of the requirements that will be in our letter. California must immediately pause issuing non-domiciled commercial learner permits and commercial driver's licenses. And as soon as practicable, they need to identify all of the unexpired non-domiciled CDLs that were issued in compliance with the relevant regulations. They must conduct an internal audit to identify all procedural and programming errors, training and quality assurance problems, and insufficient policies and practices, and all of the other issues that have resulted in widespread noncompliance in the issuance of non-domiciled CDLs. They must notify FMCSA of the audit findings and the number of unexpired compliant non-domiciled CDLs. They need to take immediate action to correct the deficiencies identified in the audit. They need to take immediate action to avoid and rescind all improperly issued CDLs and reissue those non-domiciled CDLs in accordance with the regulations in effect at the time of reissuance. And they must, in resuming issuing the non-domiciled CDLs, only after the state has ensured that all statutes, regulations, and necessary oversight is in place. As Secretary Duffy mentioned, they have 30 days to respond to the non-compliance letter that'll go out today and to provide their corrective action to make the implementations necessary to bring their program into compliance with the law.
We'll take your questions in just a moment. I want to give one point of clarification. So this is not retroactive, and not because we did not want to make this retroactive. This is prospective. If we can find a pathway forward to make it retroactive, we will, because we're very concerned about the issues that have been issued over the course of the last several years. And so that's issue number one. But issue number two, we all saw during COVID how important our truck drivers are to moving supplies, goods, food throughout our country. And we've had a lot of conversations. This is not about the movement of goods. It's follow the law, number one. But we have a lot of drivers who are U.S. citizens who are ready and willing and able to take these loads. And so this is not going to impact the flow of goods at all. We don't need non-domiciled CDL drivers to carry loads in America to make sure our goods travel throughout the country. We have American drivers who are, again, ready, willing, and able to take those loads. And so, again, we're going to force compliance with the law, but this has no impact on the movement of goods because, again, we have great American drivers who are ready to act. With that, if you guys have any questions for us, we'll be happy to take them from you. Yes.
Hi, back in the place game. So you mentioned that this is going to be this is not retroactive. I'm curious because you guys outlined all of these different CDLs that were issued in non-compliant states and the safety risk. Is there going to be some sort of additional review or enforcement action to make sure that CDLs that were improperly issued are actually taken care of?
Yes. We have a lot of work ahead of us at FMCSA to ensure the integrity of each of the states' state driver's licensing agency. And so there will be additional oversight to make sure we have 100% confidence that their systems are compliant.
I'm Charles with Politico. I just have two questions. First, I just wanted to clarify, is DOT pausing, is DOT asking that California only pause its issuing of non-domiciled CDLs or all states that don't comply?
All states. We're asking all states to pause their issuance of non-domiciled CDLs and to ensure that any additional issuance of a non-domiciled CDL is consistent with the rule that is immediate effectively.
And another question for Secretary Duffy. A few evenings ago, news outlets reported that the White House sent out a memo to agencies asking them to prepare reduction in force plans in the case of a government shutdown. If a shutdown does happen, which DOT jobs and programs are you looking to potentially cut?
I would refer you to OMB on the memo. But as I've talked about from this podium frequently, we are in the midst of a modernization effort of our air traffic control system. You've heard me talk about our supercharge effort to bring more air traffic controllers into the workforce, get them through the academy, get them trained up. And again, this is bipartisan. Democrats and Republicans approve and support what we're doing because we all fly. I'm concerned that what Senate Democrats are doing could jeopardize our efforts in modernization and could jeopardize our ability to continue to train new graduates at the academy. I'm going to do all I can. We've had a number of conversations to figure out a pathway forward should the Democrats in the Senate shut down our government. I hope that doesn't happen. But again, we have a lot of really important issues that we work on that keep people safe. And again, I don't want Democrats to give me a ripple effect that can come not just in the months, but the years into the future because of this shutdown. Yes.
Secretary Chase Williams at Fox Business. You said if California doesn't comply, you're going to withhold federal highway funds. I think you said $160 million. That'll double in year two. Have you spoken to Governor Newsom, and have there been any discussions between you two?
We haven't talked. I've seen some tweets he sent out, but no, we haven't had a conversation. Open to talk to him. Again, we just want compliance. We want him to be concerned about the safety of California roads, but also American roads. And he should look at the data, look at the non-compliance, and realize that we have a lot of tools in our toolbox to get California to comply. And again, there's a lot of California drivers that are American that want to take those loads.
I guess a follow up quickly. The $7,500 federal EV tax credit expires next week on Tuesday. What does this mean for the future of EVs?
Listen, I think the president's been clear on this. He believes in markets. And again, the future of EVs, a lot of people love their EVs. They want to buy them. They work really well for them. And others don't. They want a combustion engine. And so, again, the future of EVs is going to be based on market principles, I think is a positive. And again, EV is going to go away because you don't get $7,500 for your vehicle or towards the purchase of your vehicle. No, they're not going to go away. But again, they'll have to comply with market demands and the interests of the consumer. Yes.
Elizabeth, the Daily Signal. Yes, about California. Have you spoken to governors, transportation officials, other states you found to be in violation, particularly Texas, a red state?
We've not. Again, I want to treat everybody fairly. I don't want to play politics. As you'll note in this list, there's Republican-led states and Democrat-led states. We are going to give them, the other states, time to come into compliance, but we've seen the most egregious action from California. And again, that's why we've taken this action with California. But if other states don't come into compliance, give us their plan for compliance, we'll have the same actions with every state who doesn't keep their roadways, American roadways, safe. Yes.
Thanks, Jacob with Scripps News. 2 questions, if I may. First, just you mentioned there are plenty of Americans who want these jobs, but a number of trucking industry groups say that there's still a shortage of truckers. So, do you have any concerns that this crackdown might, further impact the shortage of trucking drivers and the availability of goods that we need to?
I don't. I feel very good that we're going to still move goods throughout this country, and we're going to move them safely. Right? People are going to get their licenses legally, and when they get those licenses, we want them to follow the law. And so the trucking industry that I've spoken with know that they have a lot of capacity to pick up loads from any truckers who have licenses that are illegal, and they can transport products across the country. So no, I feel very good that we're going to be fine. Now, in the long run, do we want more young people to look at the great industry of being a trucker? Of course. You don't have a whole bunch of college debt. You can go to school, you can get trained, and you can get on the road, and you can start making really good money right away. But again, I think as you get on the road with your family, if you have kids, I'm not sure, but if you do, you want to make sure that they're safe. And people who drive those massive 80,000-pound rigs are well-trained, well-qualified. They can speak English, and they got their licenses pursuant to the rules that are set up by FMCSA. Yes.
Jessica with the Washington Free Beacon. I know you've said that states have 30 days to respond to the noncompliance letter. What is the admin's recourse if states do fail to comply and continue issuing CDLs in violation of the rule?
So we are only issuing the letter to California today. So the 30 days will only begin for California. The other states, the letters will follow shortly. But the recourse it's progressive, as the Secretary outlined, with potentially withholding the highway fundings. In the first year, it's 4%, then it doubles in the second year. But our authority is, if we do not get compliance, we can decertify a licensing program in the state. And I might add, originally non-domiciled CDLs were for citizens in a state where that program had been decertified, so they could go to another state. And so in a very important respect, this change in the rule just reverts the rule back to how it was originally intended. But the 30 days have not started for any of the other states.
So again, we're going to decertify after we take money away. And we don't want to do that. I want California to comply. We want to work with California. We want to be partners. It's a big state. It's a great state. But they should look at the partnership on the expertise that we have on how we make sure we go through the licensure process and keep people safe. That should be in the interest of the governor, the legislature, and everyone who lives in California. So we hope they choose to work with us. Yes.
While formulating this rule, to what extent did the department study the potential effects on supply chain and consumer prices?
Well, again, we have a lot of interaction with the industry. We have a lot of data that's shared with us throughout the industry, and we feel very confident that there won't be disruptions in the supply chain. And no, because a specific study on impacts, no, but we do have data, number one, and number two, what's paramount is the safety of our roadways and following the law. And if there was an issue, which I don't see one, to endanger the lives of Americans, to let non-qualified individuals get on our roadways to drive 80,000-pound rigs and endanger your safety, that's not an exchange I'm willing to have. I would not make that deal. But with what we've seen, we have enough haulers, enough truckers to meet the demand in the industry today. I'll do one more.
Dave Sherwoodson from Reuters. Can I just ask, you announced in August about the related concerns about English proficiency for California, New Mexico, and Washington State. And I think you gave them 30 days on that issue. Have they addressed those concerns? Are those still pending? Is there a separate enforcement action that can come out of that?
So just on the timeline, I will turn this over to Jesse in a second. We actually announced our rule in May that went into effect at the end of June. And the crash in Florida that we all saw where we lost 3 lives, which if you watch the video of that, it was outrageous that U-turn on the turnpike would have been attempted. I mean, no one in their right mind, in my view, would attempt that kind of a turn. So our rules were in place before that crash happened. And so I'll let Jesse specifically answer the question.
So the deadline was actually yesterday, and they all did reply with to the non-enforcement or to the non-conformity enforcement letter. And so we're reviewing their responses right now.
And just so as we wrap up here, we have a lot of modes, and safety is our primary concern, whether it's rail, roads, airplanes. But with regard to our truckers, we are going to put your safety first. And we don't want to play politics with this. There's a lot of places where politics can be played. This is a space that politics doesn't belong. Safety is paramount. And so let's all get on the same page. Let's all work together. Let's partner to make sure our roads are safer. We lose way too many people on American roads. And it's hard to address those numbers. Over 40,000 people a year lose their lives. And if we can do anything, if we can do small things to save lives, every governor, every department should work together to accomplish that goal. And we're going to lead the effort. And if people don't share that viewpoint, don't share that vision, we will use our tools and we will take action. And if they won't keep you safe, we're going to do all we can to keep you safe. Thank you very much.